Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Corbett from This Is My Story as we look back on the first half of the season for Heart of Midlothian. How's it going, Liam?
All good, mate. All good. You have a good New Year?
Yeah, not too bad. It was, as listeners may have heard, ended up in a pub on Leaf Walk, listening to Sunshine and Leaf as the bells ticked in. So that was interesting. Yourself?
Yeah, quiet. Always helps when Hearts are winning, doesn't it?
Oh, makes a massive difference. I had the dreaded fear going into the second when the Livingston just in years gone by. That's just one right. You're not winning that game, no matter what's happening.
I know.
So kicking straight off, basically, we'll kind of look back at the season so far. How do you think, and kind of genuinely, how do you think the season's gone?
The proverbial mixed bag, isn't it? I think for the highs of sort of Rosenborg to the lows of St Mirren, Motherwell at home, etc. But I think that something's clicked with the team. We've spoken about it at length. Like some of their favourite Hearts teams have been sides that have been identifiable. Like you kind of know what you're going to get with them. Sometimes it's great football like George Burley. Sometimes it's just you're in for a fight. You're going to have to be good to beat us, like Craig Levine's 2000 in the 2002 team. And we seem to have stumbled onto something that works for us. We all bemoaned Robbie Nielsen. I get slaughtered for it all the time for him. The Poundland Pep, all the different formations, all the Vogue formations that it's on Match of the Day, and then we're watching Cammy Devlin and players like that trying to execute them on a pitch and being like, I've no idea what we're doing. Stephen Naismith has kind of felt to me like he's kind of went back to basics and went, no, this is what we're going to do. These are where we get the best players in their best positions and get them in the best areas of the park. And weirdly, that's 5-4-1 or 3-5-2 if you're into playing champ man. But it's essentially 5-4-1, but it's working. So, a total mixed bag.
Yes, I mean it's a kind of roller coaster of sorts, because you go back to that Rosenborg game. That was because that's like a Hearts team that I want to like that. I think that was like the perfect example of what Hearts fans want to see in general from their team. And like coming out with Tynecastle at night, just everything was bouncing. I was working the game and came out at an hour and a half, 2 hours after full time, and Gorgie Road was just wild, like folk coming out of pubs still singing. It was great, and then never really kicked on from there. Like I said, there was real struggles. I thought the biggest, there was a big change when we got beat by Celtic at Tynecastle, and then that kind of was coupled with Atkinson's injury. Naismith need to change this and change it to a back three or back five, like you said. It's probably not exactly what he wanted to do, but I think it's shown there's been a pragmatism to him and a realisation of what's required to win, but also what's required to get the best out of individual players. Because like you look at when Cammy Devlin tried to play off the right-hand side against St Mirren, and we've not seen that, like, any more of that. It's just been guys in their strongest positions, a nice balance within the team, and we're an absolute nightmare to play against.
Yeah, 100%. And it's acknowledging who we're playing against as well. How many times have we told our hair at watching Hearts play St Mirren and Gogic turns into prime Zidane, and I think we knew that's what he was going to do. Andrew Shinnie at Aberdeen, we knew he's going to sit in front of the back three, the back four, whatever they play, and he's just going to break up play. We watched Scott Brown do it when he played at Aberdeen, and we seemed like clueless that that's what they were going to do. And I think like the Livingston game's a perfect example. Peter Haring's been drafted in from the cold almost from his mistake at Ibrox, but we knew that we need him. We need him just sitting in that hole, because Livingston are going to go from back to front every single time. Every player apart from their middle of the park is 8 foot tall, and it's all going to be about second balls and winning headers and getting the ball out of dangerous areas where Livingston look to play. So I've liked it that Naismith has started to look more about like how other teams are going to set up against us and how we can get the right players in the right positions, rather than trying to be sometimes a bit too fancy, like you said, Cammy Devon playing wide right away to St Mirren with near enough nobody in the middle of the park, and then we want to come away from there being like, what was it? Did it finish 1-0 on paper? But it was about 5-0. I think they were about 4 goals chopped off for offside. And I'm like, well, obviously we played with no one in midfield. Like, what did we think was going to happen? So I'm hoping that it was because the penny clicked or dropped with him, or even if it was just petulance. Because if he thought, well, after, like you said, after that Celtic game, when it was like, right, fine, well, do you know what I mean? If you didn't want expansive and exciting football or whatever, then I'm just going to play 5-4-1 and you'll get what you get. And we've won 8 out of 11 or whatever it's turned out to be.
I think there is. I think he's spoken about it. Notice it after, I think it was the Kilmarnock game. The second one won in the league, and then the Livingston game spoke about it, and he just basically just said, if there's no point coming here and just like, obviously there's this way, the way he wants to play, but he's also got the understanding now that the way he wants to play slightly not going to work at Kilmarnock. It's not going to work at Livingston. You need to basically earn the right to do that, and I think that's been a change. And in general, Stephen Ace, I know you certainly had your doubts early on the season. Has he changed your mind?
Any Hearts manager that wins football matches will change minds. I think loads of people forget that it's slightly different to the Robbie Nielsen situation, right? Because again, there was bitterness always hung over Robbie, and Robbie was almost fighting against the current with some Hearts fans, probably myself included. But Stephen Naismith started off on the wrong foot, and that was none of his design. That was the club's fault. You know, the club should never have brought in the situation that we had for Europe. They just painted a target on his back, not only for Hearts fans, but rival fans. You know yourself, as soon as Hearts drop points, everyone's going to be, oh, who's the manager? Who's going to get sacked? Because of that daft situation. And then I think as well, when we got rid of Robbie, we heard from the club about how we have this vast, expansive list of the next best managers coming through because we're always prepared. We've always got a contingency plan should Robbie leave or be sacked or whatever it be. And then we appointed the guy that was two rooms down the road for where the board is, etc., etc. So I think that he was always on a back foot. He was 2 steps back for the start line when he first started. I don't even think he would argue that the start to the season wasn't good enough. And I think that we need to break that cycle as Hearts fans where folks seem almost like we're not allowed to criticise where we're at. We won 2 home games in the opening round of fixtures. It's not good enough for Hearts. It's not good enough for any Hearts manager. Also the European games as well. Hearts need to break this cycle of being the happy just to be in Europe or happy just to be at Hampden, etc., for semi-finals and finals. It's about winning games. Look at Aberdeen. Aberdeen beat Frankfurt, drew with PAOK. They went toe-to-toe with these teams. PAOK absolutely battered us in Greece, like 4-0, because again, I always have this thing that we were just happy to be there. Look at Rosenborg, when we went toe-to-toe with them, we beat them. You know, we get a scalp. So the start of the season wasn't good. I don't think he would. You've spoken to Stephen Naismith. You know that he'd probably say that it wasn't. But I think, like you said, since the Celtic game, we've went back to basics. It's helped that we've got players back. You know, it's been so good to have Benny back. It's good to see Halkett back. I said that even at Livingston, I don't think Halkett had an unbelievable game, but the one thing that Halkett did that I'd like to see Rouse and Atkinson and Hoff, some of the foreign boys, get up to grips with is that Guthrie for the first 11, 12 minutes of that game. He ran us ragged, and then Halkett just started pulling him, standing on him, getting touch tight, nipping him, biting him, whatever it needs to be. Did all the dark arts, and it sucked him out of the game. You're no longer, and they weren't playing amazing. Halkett wasn't superb, but he was all over him like a rash. And how many times have we watched, Kyle Rouse, for example, try, burst out of defence to go on a Zal type run to go win the ball back in a promising position in the opposition half, and then he does neither, and they pop it round them and score like Rangers at home, and it's good to see those players come back. So, yeah, I'm impressed. I've been impressed with how he spoke as well. It's one thing that the things that he's talking about, the way he handled the Xander Clark situation as well, when his post-match at the Derby was brilliant. He acknowledged that we were all there. We all got a bit giddy when we seen Craig Gordon warming up. But Xander Clark is the best goalkeeper in the league currently in terms of clean sheets, saving penalties, doing well. So, I would say that the tide is turning. But let's say we're halfway through the season. We've got to keep doing what we're doing. Keep winning matches. The home form's the big one for me. We've got to start. I think currently we've won 4 home games this season. We need to start getting the identity that we seem to have away from home needs to be now brought to home. How do we get the crowd more engaged? How do we get? Because we're creating chances, but not enough. Not enough. So that's probably the only bit of the halfway report card that needs to improve currently is probably the home form.
Yeah, because you look at a few things on Naismith, and I'm with you. I really like a lot of things he says. Dude, across his Hearts management career, I've agreed with everything he said. No, but that's never going to be the case. But I do like a lot of the points he makes. There's reason behind it, and he's a type of manager where you can ask him anything and he'll give you a detailed answer, and there'll be thought behind it, and he won't just reach for a kind of cliche and he'll kind of fob you off. There'll be, no matter what you ask him, he'll answer in his fullest. And it's clear that he's got ideas about Hearts, and that his experience there as a player, because the big one is when he was there as a player, that was a time where Levine was in charge. From window to window, we were signing. There was one window we signed about 18 boys, and then it was just changing. Like, that wasn't good enough. He knew the away form wasn't good enough. Again, another thing that he's changed, which is mental, because you consider, I don't think I've ever said at Sport Hearts that if only our home form was like our away form. We discussed third by now. So you look at all the loads of little wee markers that kind of looked at progress, and I think a big one is there's definitely a mentality aspect. I think he will as a type of manager, type of player, type of personality, will help change a mentality at the club. Yeah,
and it certainly looks like it's working, which is great. Like I said, I've been impressed with what he said. If I had a gripe, there's a couple of things about. I think he's maybe talks too much about Tynecastle in terms of, I like when he talks about, you play for Hearts, you have to be able to deal with Tynecastle, etc., etc. But he's had a couple of times now he said that, the fans can get a bit agitated, the fans need to stick with the players and all that stuff. And I do agree with that. Like, we know ourselves, we're the most demanding fans on planet Earth for a club that have achieved literally nothing. After 25 minutes, if we are only playing Barcelona-esque football, we're bumping our gums. But I'd look at it more from a mentality thing. Look at Rosenborg. Look at the big games that we've had over the years. When Tynecastle is engaged and up for it, then it's the best it's the best weapon Hearts can have. But if you start slow, a bit lacklustre, you're sitting with 5 at the back and 2 sitting midfielders, etc. Then it becomes really difficult to sort of build that momentum type thing. So. But he is definitely changing the mentality. We've said loads and loads. I think we've got stats for days about, since 1990 or whatever. I think we average 4 league away wins a season. I think if we win our next away game, or if we win one more away game, it's the best away record since 1991 or something like that.
No, so we need so in the last 32 years we've won. There's only been 4 seasons which have had a better away record than the current one. So if we manage to win 3 away games between now and the end of the season, it'll be the first time since 91-92 that we've won double figures away from home.
And you think that in all that lifetime that we've supported Hearts, we've told everybody that will listen that we're the 3rd best team in the country.
Yeah.
And we kind of get double-digit away wins in a season. So it is good to see. It's great to see. The mentality Stephen Naismith is, I'm hoping that he's telling the players about that we've so many missed opportunities. I know that we didn't want to look back, but George Burley, that season, everybody thinks Hearts were amazing, and we were, and that was the reason we finished second. But it was a culmination of things. Rangers capitulated under McLeish that season as well, and we struck when the iron was hot, and we took full advantage of the fact that they were a mess. This is the worst Rangers side in 2 decades, it's atrocious. And we should be, if you look and say, right, well, we've dropped points at home to Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Hibs, who's the other team? Ross County. You start to look through some of them and think they're not. It's no mental to think that we're capable of beating those teams. We're 2-0 up versus Hibs through a 2-goal lead. You know, we've been beat 1-0 by Motherwell at home, and their keeper's been Buffon for almost all of that match. You start to look at that and say, well, we're 1-0 up at Ibrox going into the last, I gotta say 10 minutes, but that was because they got 10 minutes added on time or whatever crazy situation it was. These are opportunities that Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, this plagues our history, where you're not going to get, Rangers have sorted themselves out. It looks like they probably will with Clement. It looks like if he can get his players in, the identity he wants, you only get small opportunities. So I hope that they're looking at the season and saying, we really had an opportunity here to get much, much closer to Rangers than we are right now, and we didn't have to spend millions of pounds to break the bank to do it. We just needed to be better in games, better game management. You're 1-0 up away at Aberdeen, you lose 2-1. You're 1-0 up at Ibrox, you lose 2-1. 2-0 up at home against Hibs, you draw 2 each. They're all opportunities that actual mentality was a bit different. We might have got the points there. So I hope that that's something that he's trying to nail into the players, because he's a born winner. He's won everywhere that he's been. So that's what I'm hoping to see.
I think there was definitely, you mentioned that mentality aspect, and the Aberdeen game I think was a big one, in that there was, I think there was frank discussions in the change room after, and also on the Monday when they sat down, and I think that was almost like a line in the sand for Naismith, almost just the way he talked about it being, because he talked about it. You can argue for and against whether there was tactics at play. I felt maybe it should have changed the system in the second half, but he made a big deal about the kind of the mentality aspect, about kind of talked about getting bullied. So I think that could have been a big turning point. But I do agree that there is, just naturally as football fans, you're always thinking what could have been. That's just the nature of it. And you just look. You mentioned the home form, and yeah, it would be nice to get closer to Celtic and Rangers, especially with both of them dropping points more regularly than they have done in the last few seasons, from what I can remember. But you're looking at like that the drop points like Kilmarnock and Motherwell leading against Hibs. I just think you're already scushford. That's like third.
That's exactly the point. Yeah, the point is there that it's almost done, and it's no. Football fans will sit and they'll tell you things, if we'd had a corner, he could have scored it, and it becomes all mad stuff. It becomes our tinfoil hat. But actually, if you sit down and say, Robbie Neilson lost to Dundee and St Mirren, that was it. I think Livingston and Hibs maybe got a point at Tynecastle under Robbie Neilson. His home form is why we finished third. It is what he built his reputation on. So it's not mad to think that Hearts are capable of beating Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Ross County at home. Derbies are different, so you look there and instantly you can start to be like, well, actually that's maybe 7 points closer where we should have been. It's no mental to think that Hearts have enough in them to go to Dundee. You look at the goal that we conceded, crazy. Even there's another point if we hadn't had a brain fart that we could have got. So I get it that football fans will always connect dots. Rangers fans will be sitting there doing that. They know about winning titles, but it's more about the fact that we really realistically could have already have had third wrapped up. If we'd had the right mentality in those games. And just to circle back on the things you said about the Aberdeen game, I actually think that Stephen Naismith has looked at himself in that one, that the management of Craig Halkett, for example, he chucks Craig Halkett back in, you're 1-0 up at Pittodrie or wherever it is, and you stick him middle of the centre free. He's not played in however many months, etc. It's probably not the right call, to be honest with you. And he got ran ragged, he looked like he was towing a caravan, etc. But he's pulled him out, he's brought him back in, he's started him, he's not started him. His management of that, almost like an acknowledgement, probably made mistakes there too. Lauren Shankland spoke brilliant after that game as well, about looking around the dressing room. Do these folk get it? Do they understand what it actually takes to be here and stuff? So hopefully the mentality stuff starts to bear fruit because it's been something that we talk about at length all the time about us being a soft touch and getting our bellies tickled. I'd quite like for us to go back to being, a team full of dogs, because that's what Hearts are all about for me.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is that you look at like what could have been, but also what has been, and I think there's been a lot of positives, and what fills me with a lot of confidence is the fact that it's not as if we've started badly and kind of regressed. Started well and regressed. It's that when there's been a constant progress. You look at our results, you look at the different ways we've managed to win, and I do think we've been a lot more scrappy and a lot more niggly and really hard to play against. I think players themselves, there's a lot of players I think who regress at times, but you're actually thinking they're looking back to what we thought they were. Say Kai Rowles, thought he's looked a lot better, Nathaniel Atkinson, Alex Cochrane, and then the big one from this last season to this season, he's not a world beater, but I think he plays an important role. It's like Alan Forrest just looks different as well. And then I suppose we bring it around to Lawrence Shankland. He looks like just in terms of his goal scoring, stepped up another notch. He's just unreal.
Yeah, and just to talk about the players you mentioned there, it's no coincidence that they're all playing their best positions. I think Robbie last season we changed probably too much, and we were trying to ask folk to go and play in positions. If you look now, like the one that sticks out as a sore thumb in that team is the right hand side. When Atkinson's not there, Sibic just can't play that role, and he really sticks out in that position. But then you think, well, actually, he's not a right wing back. We originally fell in love with Toby Sibic because he was a defensive midfielder, and then we played him at centre half, and then we played him at right back. So it's no surprise that the guys that are turning into form and finding form are playing in the positions that best suit them. I think the only exception to that's Kingsley. Kingsley's been asked to play on the right hand side of a back three, and he stuck to it like a duck to water. I think that's more because he's a good player, but it's took him some time to get back into the swingy things as well. And Lawrence Shankland is just, I think I said in the comments on one of the last ones here, it's funny, I laughed at Livingston on Tuesday because people were moaning about his passing and his link-up play, and I'm like, it's been so long since we had a striker do striker things that people forget what a striker is. I couldn't care less if he passes the ball, links play, runs runners. I want him to put the ball in the back of the net, and he does it every single time. And his goals are half chances. But his goal on Livingston, I actually went through, so he's 6 and 6. If you go through his header at Celtic Park, a joke. Like from a standing start, he's half volleyed a header, like it flies past Joe Hart. There's no saving that. His finishes against Ross County, St Mirren one is a joke, mate.
Yeah,
it's Thierry Henry-esque. It's outrageous. And his finish against Ross County for me is the best of the lot. His goal at Easter Road is unbelievable, but the Ross County one is just, it's so composed.
Yep.
You've done the keeper. The keeper didn't dive. He had all the scenarios in the goalkeeper's head where he thinks what could happen here or where it's going to go. He had no idea he was going to side foot a volley into the bottom corner along the ground. He never even bothered to even dive for it. And then the Livingston, we're so used to it now that if Liam Boyce had scored that goal, we'd be singing about it for the rooftops. But because it's Lawrence Shankland, it's almost like another goal for Shankland.
He's turned into, because I remember the last few seasons, you look at Craig Gordon where other fans are like looking at his saves and just going, that's world class, and we're like, yeah, that's kind of just what he does, what we expect. And it's getting to that point with Shankland, because he just scores so many different goals, like right foot, left foot, headers. I think his aerial ability is still underrated by a lot of people. I don't think quite realise just how good a player how good a player he is in the air. But you take that, and he talked about his pass and his running. He's still an incredible footballer outside the box, where I know there's like last season he got moved around, and sometimes you do that because at times he was our most creative forward and our best striker, and he's just like the whole package without pace. That's the only thing he's missing. And if he had pace, he wouldn't be at Hearts.
No, I don't think he needs it either. Like,
no.
To be honest with you, I don't think he needs it. And you look at the amount of goals he scored, and you start to think about a striker with any pace. You're expecting, cutbacks and tap-ins, and almost all of his goals are from near enough all of his own creation. Look at the goals against Livingston. He's out right wing with Allen, with the two wingers. Like exact same as the sort of goal he scored in the Scottish Cup versus Hibs last season, but from the opposite side. He's out on the touchline, playing balls, making runs, etc. He is unbelievable. He's so quick. He's like Robbo used to say as well. He's quick between the eyes, and sometimes that's all that matters. And it's been a long time since we've had a player that he occupies two players every single time. Now, maybe not physically, they might not go man for man with him, but he's in the minds of everybody in that back line, because he's header, left foot, right foot, inside the box, outside the box, half volley. He's dangerous. And you can see that it's no surprise that Alan Forrest and Vargas and Odas and these guys are finding spaces in behind, because the centre halves are just they're scared of Shankland, so they spend all of the time worrying about Shankland. They miss runners. You look at Vargas's goal again against Livingston. Shankland plays a big part in that with his running. He takes defenders away so that there's space for Forrest to run into and Vargas to run into. So yeah, his all-round play is unbelievable. He's invaluable to Hearts.
I don't think on the kind of physical side of things, I actually don't think it's appreciated just how much we've seen it at Livingston, how much he's manhandled, and like how much he gets hit and takes the physical side of things from opposition defenders. Because he's so good at using his body, then other defenders get frustrated. They start tugging at him, they start pushing him, they start prodding him, and he should, very much biased in this instance, but he should get a lot more free kicks than he does.
Yeah, and we just spoke about there with Halkett. The first 15 minutes of that game, that Guthrie, Kent and Halkett were 5 yards off him at every single long ball up the park. He won every header, he chased every ball into the corner, etc. Then Halkett and Kent were like, right, we're probably going to win headers against him because he's tall, so we'll just start pulling him, holding on to him, tugging him, stopping him for jump. That happens to Shankland every single game, but he still scores. Kent and Halkett sucked the life out of Guthrie, and he was never a threat for the rest of that game. Whereas Halkett got the same thing, got pushed, got prodded, get pulled. Look at the comical VAR, no even looking at the fact that the boy ripped the top clean off his back before he had his looping header that hit the bar. He does it all the time. He does it constantly, and he probably should get more fouls than what he does. But I like the fact that he gets on it. I think he quite likes that part of the game. He looks like he does anyway.
He does. I think he does. He's always smiling and laughing. And before we move on from Shankland, how much for you? How much would you take? How much would it take for to sell?
Well, we can't sell him. It's as simple as that. Hearts have to, and I'm sure the club will be doing it anyway. If his goals will get us Europe this year, there is absolutely no denying that. So, how much are those goals worth? He's got 2 seasons, well, a half a season and another full season with us left. His goals will get us Europe the following season. So you're looking at anywhere between £5-7 million worth of value for us getting to Europe across 2 seasons. No one's going to pay £10-15 million for him. And I think that's his true value. I keep saying to Hearts fans, I said it on my own podcast the other day, have a conversation with a Celtic fan and say, oh, Kyogo's going to be sold for less than $3 million. They'll laugh at you. They'll laugh you out the room. Same with Dessers, and he's terrible at Rangers. The Rangers wouldn't accept that. Lon Shankland is the best striker in Scotland by a country mile. If he goes to the Euros, he'll score goals for Scotland as well. So the idea that Hearts should be looking for anywhere between £3 and £5 million is laughable. You would get a boot for that. What I hope to happen, club breaks the bank. If we've got ambition, we want to be ambitious, go sit him down. Start talking about legacy. He's 2 goals away for Rudy Scatchell. It's mental. He's what, 4 goals away from 50. Jamie Walker, the last player to do that, and before that it was John Robertson. I think it was decades. Start talking about the fact that you stay for another 3 seasons, score the goals that you are, making the highest paid player, put in a proper release clause and say, come, keep scoring goals. We'll put a release clause in. If somebody meets the value and you're interested, then we'll sell you. Otherwise, the only viable reason or other scenario is to let him run his contract in, because he's too valuable to Hearts. There's an argument to say he'll get to 50 before February, maybe middle of February he'll get to 50 goals for Hearts. He could be close to 75 goals come the end of the season. Like, he's that good, he's that ridiculous. He's the club's joint top European goal scorer. He'll probably score and become the top goal scorer in Europe for the club. I'd rather he left for free than sold for anything under £10 million.
Yeah, it's a few weeks, last month, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I would have said nothing less than 5 million. But yeah, I'm very much like, as the game has gone on, it's just added more and more value to him. And the big thing is that it's not as if his game is around pace, like we talked about. That it's his value, like, because he's not going to get any slower, so his value is not going to be taken away from that. Let's move on before we finish to some quick fire ones. What has most impressed you about the season?
Shankland is. I thought he was good last season, and he did score a lot of penalties. But the fact that he's now just missing penalties for fun and still the league's top goal scorer, he's added different things to his game. Things I didn't think he had in him last season. His heading ability. Rosenborg, Celtic Park, Ibrox, he scored headers, unbelievable. But he's now scoring absolute worldies as well for fun, like I said. So yeah, probably Shankland's been the most impressive this season.
Biggest disappointment?
The start to the season. I think we really left a lot of points on the table. We probably should be sitting comfy in third. And again, we talked there at length about mentality. We actually end the season terribly. This period of time from January to the split and then the split to the end of the season were garbage. So Stephen Naismith and the mentality, they really need to make sure that doesn't happen, or we're going to have a repeat of Aberdeen last season. So yeah, we've probably left too many points on the table. What's been
the best moment for you?
It's hard, isn't it? Because obviously Rosenborg was incredible, but we've beat Celtic at Celtic Park.
Yep.
Who doesn't like a 93rd minute winner versus Hibernian? That's always fun. I quite liked I liked Vargas smashing the bar versus Aberdeen, because it was inches away from being an absolute belter, and I don't know why, but people that come to Hearts for South America, I just want them to be heroes. They're the idols of who I want to put up the roller in Shankland, so I was desperate for it to go in. But yeah, Rosenborg, you can't beat Rosenborg.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Worst moment?
It's going to have to be the derby at Tynecastle.
Yeah,
they were, and this sounds so bitter, but they're so bad. I've not seen a team try to play in Scotland playing rigid 4-4-2 in straight lines since Jimmy Calderwood, Dunfermline in 1997 or whatever. and for us, they were there. We just put the ball in the stand and face up that throw in, and we probably win 3 or 4. So
that's the frustrating thing. I thought, the frustrating thing is that other than those stupid 90 seconds, I thought we were actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that game as well. Who's been the best signing?
Frankie Kent.
Yeah.
Frankie Kent.
What about the sign? I'm not going to use the term worst, but who's a signing you want to see more from?
All of them, to be honest with you. I think that I like Joe Savage talking at the AGM, said, we've tried the Australia market, the Japanese market and stuff, and we maybe can't afford to have as many punts as what we do. So I look at Denham and contrast him to Hoff, and I think at Hoff, he's probably got all the same attributes that we like about Cammy Devlin, but then so does Denham. So it's like, why have we travelled halfway across the world to bring in players that we kind of have here? So I'd like to see more from Hoff. I think that I think he's got the ability to do it. You see it in flashes where he's brilliant at carrying the ball forward and getting us up the park. I'd probably like to see just a wee bit more from Hoff, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I would agree with that one. Finally, what's been the biggest surprise?
The turnaround, I'll be honest. I didn't see it. I think heading into the Motherwell away game, I think there was just too much. The noise coming out of the club around the Frankie McAvoy stuff and them doing joint interviews, standing holding hands with each other and all that, it was embarrassing. And it was like, as soon as we stopped winning matches, we just knew that the noise was going to come. We're too big a football club, we're too stable, got too much money coming in from the fans to have been taken up on an under-18s manager. So at those points there, when we went to Motherwell before the international break, I genuinely thought, this has got the writing on the wall here. Like Motherwell, typical away game where we're normally absolutely rubbish. But we were brilliant that day, played really well. And since then, we've had a couple of hiccups. The Rangers games, the Aberdeen games, the one that sticks out the most. But probably the turnaround to be sitting where we are now, a game in hand, potential to go 8 points clear in third, in front of Kilmarnock. Yeah, the turnaround, it's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on that. We talked about it a fair bit earlier in the season, in that it got to the point where it was similar to Nielsen, where it was just like every game was a must-win game, and it gets tiresome when it's like that. But and you're just wondering, it's like, and when it gets to such a situation, like how does a manager turn around? And well, by just constantly winning games, and winning games where it puts more credit in the bank. For example, Celtic Park, for example, yeah. Hibs. And that when hiccups do come, you go, right, that's fine, we'll just start again. And it builds trust.
I think the Ross County game was a massive one for that. You're 2-0 down at home to Ross County. Mm-hmm. That's a CV breaker. I don't know, it might sound big-headed or too arrogant, but Hearts shouldn't be losing at home to Ross County. That is in the brackets of an unacceptable home defeat. But to come back and get 2 each, you then start to you soften and go, well, they're on a form. They had a pre-season. They had 2 weeks off.
Yep.
Their manager absolutely slaughtered them in the press, telling them that they were garbage. So they're going to come out. And then you also have to look at the VAR decision. That's 0-0. We get a penalty. You've got a chance to go 1-0 up. It's never a free kick for the Yandanda free kick, which is a belter. So I think the Ross County one for me was the one that, I sent you a big petulant WhatsApp when we were 2-0 down. But that was the one that changes the narrative. Do you know what I mean? Because this side isn't, show ponies, or it's not just a flash in the pan. It's got a bit about them, and I like that. And I like that about us. So that was the one that impressed me the most.
Nice one. Liam, thank you very much for coming on to talk about the season so far. I might get you back on later on in the month and to look ahead to the rest of this season. But until then, people who are watching, listening, thank you very much. Be sure to check heartstand.co.uk for all the latest from Hearts, including a chat with Stephen Naismith about the recruitment process. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.